Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth, and the infuriating person alongside me is Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Why am I infuriating, Andy?
It is, guys, you would just never believe the crap that he puts me through between when I start recording and then when we actually start the podcast. And you will never
An-
know because that will never be released
An-
to the public. Oh, man.
Andy starts recording, and we have a blood oath. And we have a blood oath that he won't ever show that stuff. He'll get rid of it. That's Andy will start recording and then be like, "All right, are you ready?" And then it'll be another 10 minutes of me just torturing him before we start. So by the time we start, you're always like, "Okay, let's just do the show."
What's the blood oath again? You cut out for a second.
The blood oath is that you won't show anyone
Oh, yes, that is true.
uh,
That is true.
you won't show any.
Mostly because there's a lot of me nudity. No one needs to see it. It's terrible.
Waiting on you now. Waiting on you now.
Sure. Welcome to another 10-minute Tuesday. I wore my Russian nightclub owner shirt just for the occasion.
You will
And
dance, yes, dance.
yes. What do you mean there are illegal things going on in my back room?
Have you ever seen? Is it 25th Hour where Tony Siragusa plays a Russian bouncer?
Yes, yes. That is who it is, and that is the movie he does it in.
Genius. All right, the
Um,
goose. The
so
goose.
so for this 10-minute Tuesday, a friend who will remain nameless for the time being. She
Jessica. I'm just kidding. I don't know her name.
It is in fact not any Jessica that I know. She asked me. She was asking me for a recommendation on movies that are out now, and I mentioned some movie that I had seen recently and that I loved, and she was like, Do you ever not like a movie?"
Right.
And that hurt me. It hurt. It cut me to the quick. Not really.
Right.
I don't care.
What cut you? It cut you because it made you feel like you're not as mean as you should be, or why?
There's something implicit in the "do you ever not like a movie" that's like you're an
Do
easy
you have
mark.
Do you have any judgment
Right. Is your
or taste at all as you
right is your taste? They successfully cut together a movie and convince someone to show it in a theater.
right?
Uh, and I'm
This
giving
has credits at the beginning and the end. Y'all should watch it.
and the end both. And I'm giving this anonymous person a hard time. I know what she means, and the fact is that I don't see a lot of movies that I truly dislike. But there are reasons for that, and we're going to get into that. And I figured this was a good opportunity for Phil and me to talk about our philosophy, both with watching movies and with this podcast.
Yes.
Um,
We had a very specific mindset and intention. Lest you think we were completely ramshackle and ready for one of my favorite words, haphazard in our
yes,
approach to this show.
we are merely
There's a
mostly
lot of
haphazard and ramshackle with
things. There's a lot of things about this show that we're still trying to figure out how to do this, but there are things that we came in with very much clarity, like very much clarity as to what we were hoping to achieve. And one of the things that we were very clear about was, but we read a lot of stuff and we see a lot of movies. We read a lot about movies and all that. Without getting too high and mighty, only a little bit high and mighty. Or really, it's less high and mighty and more just like wide-eyed and sentimental that Andy and I are.
yes,
Which is that so much stuff that's out there is about like why things are crappy or why they're not that good. You know, like why things could be better or why things, it's like critiquing, literally sitting in judgment.
yeah,
But Andy and I don't go to movies to sit in judgment. We just go to be entertained. We just go to have a good time. And
yes,
furthermore, I think most people just go to have a good time.
yeah,
Um, there are people who go and like I mean, I think people think that it's the way to think intelligently about a movie. Andy and I met in college, and it seemed like the only way to think intelligently about something was to cut it down and say what was wrong with it.
yep,
And that's how you showed that you had opinion.
yep,
But there's something to me infinitely more exciting about talking about the different ways you love something. So one, Andy and I don't see a lot of movies that we hope not to like. We try to see movies that we think we're going to enjoy. One.
yes,
And two, we give things benefits of the doubt. And then three, when we came to this show, we're like, what if we just only talked about things we liked? and how we liked them.
Yes.
And so you won't hear us talking about things we don't like, not because they don't exist. There's plenty of things I don't like, and we'll get into that every once in a while. You'll hear me, like, I'll go off on somebody that bothers me, or Andy will get me going because he knows he can get me, like, really angry about certain things.
Indeed I do, and indeid I can.
And in fact, I acknowledge that ever since I was a child, I'm sort of like a wind-up toy that way, where it's just like, let's just get him going. And I'm like, I'm so angry right now.
Right.
I had a girlfriend in college who, anytime someone said anything negative about Bob Dylan, she would just take a step away from me, like, okay, this is gonna get dirty. But you know, I've moved on from that, and I sort of, when people don't like Bob Dylan, I'm like, you know what, whatever. I love him, and there's so many reasons, and I could talk about that. I'm not really interested in why someone doesn't like him. It means nothing to me, and I have no interest in convincing people to like something.
Yes, I agree with everything you said, completely and totally. And the only thing really that I would even add to it is, and I know it's true for me, and I'm pretty sure it's true for you, although we haven't talked about it, because we have seen a lot of movies, and I'm the first to admit that, like, unless something is truly, truly outstanding, either good or bad, I don't always notice things like cinematography. Cinematography I normally notice, but, like, sound design, there are a whole slew of things that get their own Academy Award that I don't notice. But, unless they are at one extreme of good or bad. But, having said that, when you see as many movies as we have seen, you notice, I'm not going to say you're more discerning, because that's not necessarily true, but you notice different aspects. And when we go to movies, or when I do, and again, I think this is true for you as well, Phil, because we are going into a movie hoping to like it, and there are very rarely movies that I can't pick out something about the movie that I enjoyed.
Yes.
You know, whether it's the acting, whether it's the directing, whether it's the screenwriting, whether it's the cinematography, you know, like something, whether it's the concepts behind the screenplay. There are, there are so many zombie movies that I say that I love that the only reason is because it's, you know, an interesting concept, you know, but I love the concept so much.
Especially with zombie movies, because there's so much poverty in execution in that genre.
Indeed.
And you were able to, but I think I'm going to get a little hippy dippy and philosophical here, which is to say that, you know, if you think about when you go to meet someone, if you want to like someone, you have a better chance of liking them. If you go into a meeting with someone hoping that you will enjoy their company, you will find a way to enjoy their company, unless they're just the most wretched people. And those people exist. We've all had that experience where you've really tried to like someone, and then by the end you're just like, I tried. I gave it my best shot. You're just a disagreeable person.
Yes.
Movies, that's how I kind of go into movies. I love when the lights go down and I'm ready to have a good time.
Yes.
And so I will, unless the movie's just really not good. And so even if a movie is not what I was hoping it was, I mean, generally I'm not, and that's the other thing. We'll talk about spoilers some point later on, but in general, I try to find out as little about a movie as possible. If the concept or idea, or if the people involved, because those are relationships, you start to trust an actor. You start to trust an actor, and you go, you know what? If Daniel Day-Lewis is in this, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yes.
I may not love it, but I'm interested. If Russell Crowe's in this, I'm interested. If Cate Blanchett's in this, I'm interested. Again, I may not love it, but I'm at least gonna pay more attention. You know, and then that goes the other direction. You know, after a while, you're like, I'm not sure I trust you, Robert De Niro. Like, I thought I did. I thought we were friends, and now I'm a little hesitant. You know,
you heard him a little bit. You heard him a little bit.
A little nervous. I heard him a little bit. Got a little out of line yourself. So, anyways, but I think that's the thing. So for us, I think we think that it's really fun to sit around. Ever since Andy and I have known each other, the most fun we have is just sitting around talking about the things that we both love. And that's that literally was the whole idea. Before we started calling it Second Breakfast, we were going to call it something. We couldn't figure out a title, but it was going to be something about talking about this or talking about that, because we just like to sit around and talk to each other about things that are fun. And and I get that there's something really attractive about picking things apart, but Andy and I just don't do that. It's not our style. Like, we do that when we're off camera. There are things we talk about, but we try not to spend too much time there. There's so many cool things. There's so many things out there that are awesome. Why would I want to sit around and talk about things that suck when I've got things to do? Listen, I've got a wife and child to neglect so that I can watch movies. Okay?
That brings me, I'm really glad that you said all of those things. And that brings me to a concept that kind of drives me up a wall. And that is the concept.
Do tell, Andy Roth.
I shall, Philip Duvall. The concept of hate watching.
I've never. Tell me more about this.
Have you never heard of it, or?
I mean, by just in you saying it, I get what it does, but I've never heard someone talk about this.
It is. Let me define it by telling you the one thing that I do that can be truly described as hate watching. Okay? Let me paint you a picture, Phil, and viewers and listeners.
Hold on. Close my eyes.
Yes. Close your eyes. A few years ago, 7, maybe 8 now, 7, I think, a glorious new sitcom hit the airwaves. Romantic, funny.
Right up your alley. Right up your alley, Andy Roth.
Indeed. How I Met Your Mother. So charming. So romantic, sexy, intelligent, just filled with people that I enjoy as performers. Love it. Yep. All right? Yep. The central conceit is, as you might imagine, telling the story of how a man met his children's mother, his wife. We are 7 seasons in now, and we have not met the mother. I hate this show. Yep. Not because they have. Now, I want to be clear. It isn't because they haven't introduced the mother yet, although that's part of it. It is because the characters are a shadow of their former selves. They are unrecognizable. They're not human. They're not human at all.
They
are infuriating, and every time I watch a new episode, it is purely to get the when you're in a drug addiction and you're not even getting high anymore, you're just getting back to normal. That is how I'm going to feel about finding out how he actually meets the mother and who the mother is. But I have to know. And I sit through it, and I'm telling you, if it were an hour-long show, I would not be doing it anymore. But it's 21 minutes and change because it's a half-hour sitcom, and I am doing it. And that is hate watching. And it's almost too much. And that's the one thing I do it with. It's almost too much.
I bailed on that show. I think it's more regular in TV because you get invested into characters, where I don't think that happens in movies. I, for the record, bailed on How I Met Your Mother, I believe 2 years ago. 2 seasons ago. Might have been 3, but I think it was 2 seasons ago.
Sure.
So I completely understand that. If I were watching it would be for the same reasons you just said. That is how I watch The Office now.
Sure.
I don't compare the British Office to the American Office. It's not that important to me. They are 2 completely different shows. To me, the first 3 seasons of The Office, I would put up against almost anything, any sitcom. The first 3 seasons of The Office, I would put up against almost any sitcom. For performances, originality, even though it's based on another show, there was still there was a feeling to it that was different and special. And
it was produced by the same team that it's produced by the same team that so it's still their original idea.
But it was really special, and now it is literally just like when I see it on my DVR, I get angry, and it's like fine. But I can't imagine doing that for movies. I can't imagine watching something like that, on purpose, that I was ready to hate.
Now I'll tell you something, and I want to. This might be a fairly fine distinction I'm drawing here, but there are people, I promise you, Phil, that are going to watch this and say, "But Andy, what about the movie The Room?" Okay. Now let me tell everyone watching this and listening to this. The Room, you think you know because you think you have heard, oh, this movie is the worst movie ever made, or oh, I have seen it, oh, Battlefield Earth, or Manos Hands of Fate, or Plan 9 from outer space, and blah blah blah. I promise you, they are not as bad as the movie The Room. It came out a few years ago. It is a drama.
Are you saying you are telling me, really, in all honesty, that it is worse than Manos: The Hands of Fate?
It is so bad, Phil. It is bad enough that it is like you laugh at it the way that it is. Okay, it is less boring than Manos: Hands of Fate.
Here's a question for you: Have you watched Manos: The Hands of Fate not as part of the Mystery Science Theater?
I confess to you that I have not.
Neither have I. I mean, I can't imagine that I ever would. But I hear The Room is just the most awful thing in the world.
Here is my response to that. My actual real world response to that, Phil. if this is the discussion that we're having, that should tell you how bad The Room is. But
Fair enough.
so I showed it. I watched it by myself, and got about 40 minutes in, and I watched it through Netflix. I got about 40 minutes because I heard it was the worst movie ever. I got about 40 minutes in and was like, I cannot do it. And then I bought it the next day because and let me get to the end of the process.
He'll keep calling me. He'll keep calling me.
I'll go.
I can't. I'll go.
So I piecemeal watched it, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and then I invited a friend over to watch it because this is the kind of bad that you have to share. And we got about 40 minutes in, about the same distance that I got the first time I watched it, and it literally gave him chest pains. He was like, "Oh, yeah, can we? Oh, anything else? God, oh God!" And then I had a night where I invited a bunch of people.
Okay.
My girlfriend at the time, the guy that I had watched it with, his wife, a bunch of our friends. It was in law school.
She dumped you while, like, during the movie, right? She was like, "No, we're done."
Right, pretty much. She was like, "Who am I dating?"
Right.
And
You're a monster.
it was what if you become, and it was, and the reason that I don't consider it hate watching is because it is, and I mean this in the truest definition of the word, it is exceptional. Okay.
Wow.
It is.
Okay.
There is
the exception.
In much the same way that Ed Wood was fascinating enough to make a great movie about.
Movie.
Yes, it is a great movie. See Ed Wood by Tim Burton if you hadn't. Back before Tim Burton went nuts.
It was his greatest movie and his last great movie. Continue. That's a sidebar. Continue.
I don't know that I agree with you, but I certainly don't know that I don't. I just would need to think about it. But there is so much life affirmation that comes by realizing that someone who has no discernible talent as a filmmaker, as a writer, as an actor, as possibly as a human being, still managed to produce a movie that got a release. It's astonishing. I urge you all to watch it. Be prepared for that. The fact that it is terrible. Don't watch it alone because I think it puts out a finite amount of pain. And so you want to spread that amongst a number of people, and also play no drinking games with it because your liver will sue you for divorce by the end of the first reel. But I want you, seriously, Phil, how am I talking about this movie? I'm not talking about it like I hated it.
I was going to say, no, it sounds like you're joyful. It sounds like you're joyful.
Yes.
But I want to say, and I don't say this very often, I really don't want to, I feel like we've gotten a little off track.
But I don't, because that is the kind of thing, because you said I don't feel like you hear hate watching applied to movies very much.
But I guess people say it's so bad it's good, but I don't even understand that. I don't get it. It's so bad that I don't want to watch it. That's my policy on movies. But I hear that, but you're saying you agree with me. You're saying exactly right, Phil, and The Room is the exception. It is exceptional.
That is.
I will watch it with you. I will not watch it by myself.
That's a solid call for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
So guys, that's kind of our I went crazy, but I go crazy because that's what The Room does to people.
I loved every bit of it.
Nice.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
So that's our philosophy. And so when you ask the question, are there ever movies that you don't like? Well, of course there are. But why would you want to hear us talk about it?
In the Name of the King.
People.
In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege tale. I left. It was the only movie I ever walked out of.
Right. I mean, there are plenty of people who are funny talking about movies that are terrible.
I guess.
Right. I mean that's not something.
And I go back to this, and this is my high horse. This is my soapbox.
Please.
I think there are too many people who spend time picking apart a movie and critiquing. I mean, judging. Literally, that's their job. But they're called critics. Yes. And I think their whole thing is based on trying to. I don't read reviews about movies where I don't see them trying to delve into all the reasons why something is exciting.
Right.
I don't see it.
That's fair.
And I want to see that. They really generally, reviewers at this point basically just say this is a good movie or a bad movie. They don't actually talk about what they like beyond the most cursory things. And I think what I'd like to see us do is just talk about why we like stuff.
And that's what we will continue to do. So, That's about enough of that. Our
Yeah.
terribly named 10-Minute Tuesday. That's our philosophy. We will see you tomorrow for Project Melway, The Bounty.
So glad to
Bounty.
return. So glad to return to
Yes,
Project
it's
Meltway.
been Mel, we've missed you.
We have missed you, Mel.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. So that's coming away tomorrow, Wednesday. For tonight, Tuesday. Second Breakfast Nation, you have a good night. I'm Andy Roth. That's Phil Duvall. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
You stay classy, America.